Welcome to Attican Plays Railway Empire.
But it will not be manageable without international commercial relationships. Our friends in Europe have developed a fine taste for Mexican coffee.
All right, this is Attican, and welcome to part 2 of our playthrough of the Viva Mexico, or Mexico, I guess I should say, scenario. In part 1, we set up our connection from Veracruz to Mexico City, and we built Mexico City up to a population over 55,000, and we expanded our footprint out so we have 5 cities all connected. I call one of them T-Town and Veracruz and Oaxaca and Mexico City and San Luis Potosi up to the north. So we've got 5 cities going. We've got nice beer meat lines running. We've gone through our cattle wheat phase and got cattle going off to all the meat producers and wheat going off to the beer producers. And we've got and we've just been given a task to deliver 50 loads of or units of coffee to Veracruz. And so there's 2 options. There's 2 decent options. There's just to the left of the screen as we're looking at it. Up above Mexico City, there's coffee up there. I also found this coffee down here south of T-Town, and decided to use it just because the logistics of trying to get from that one up around Mexico City across all the already existing track and through that mountain pass and everything looked like it'd be too much. Plus, here's a chance to run another cool intersection where we cross. So we're going to cross the intersection coming into T-Town. And this would be one, of course, this is new, so we're going to wear out this crossing intersections, but it might not have been a bad idea to go ahead and have a tunnel or a bridge and not tie up those lines that are coming into T-Town. But we got a new toy, so we got to play with it. So we built the crossing intersection there. Now we're going to go up to link up to Veracruz. Pardon me. And we'll set up an aggressive line. And we're actually, this is one where slap myself on the wrist because, I kind of preach these dedicated lines. And here's a case where I decided to do a merger into an existing line. And, and again, I'm trying not to talk too much about the future, but you'll see I'll make a few comments about the dedicated lines going down the road here in this series. But what we're going to do here is rather than trying to have 2 connections there, I'm just going to have one piece of track that crosses those other 4 tracks. And we're going to have a line coming in on both sides of it. And basically the trains will go down as far as they can, stop, go across when they can, and same thing coming back up from south to north. So that should work just fine, and it'll allow us to cross that line safely and fairly efficiently, and we'll be able to deliver our coffee up to Veracruz. And here we're going to use the what I call the Jan Jansen technique, since he's the one who brought it to our attention about these close signals. And I've gotten a few more questions from some of you, I think, who are newer subscribers and didn't maybe see the original, want to discuss that. So let's just talk about that real quickly. Basically, when these trains are leaving the station full, these freight lines, when they're full, they got a bunch of boxcars, usually 8 boxcars. And they take off, they go to the city, they dump them. Now, in this particular game, they don't bring the boxcars back with them. They come back, the locomotive comes back empty. So it's very short. So we can take advantage of that and put signals on the return track close together and bunch those guys up close to the station and also get them out of the way so that they don't hang out. In this particular case with that coffee, it'd be a disaster if we let a train hang out and sit there over top of that intersection, because it could literally block all of our traffic flow into T-Town. So we're using the Jan Jansen technique to get those trains off the track and up close to their station so they can load up.
He is less interested in his beloved home country than his own.
We got a chance to hire office personnel. The office personnel very strong in the game. You want to grab them whenever you can. I think as a rule, as I recall from the way I played this, I wasn't too adamant about grabbing all the employees. I should have been more diligent in doing that. I wanted to make sure I got security guards on all those freight lines, but I didn't do a great job with conductors and what have you. I should have done better on that, so shame on me. And here we got a bonus. Anytime you get these connection bonuses and you can do them cheaply, this is free money. And not only that, but it'll end up being a profitable line. So we're going to run put in another small station in T-Town, and we're going to run logs up there. And the big thing is, because of this bonus we're about to receive, there we go, this is almost free. So when you can get almost free money and then start making a profit on it, go for it.
Let's start this way. Do not deliver this coffee to
So now we've just gotten a new task, and our buddy here, this Sanford, I think his name is talking to us and saying, "Hey man, don't do what that political candidate said. Follow my path and help me build up a big business for Mexico, and that'll help them out because they'll get all this American money." And so really what we have here is the first time I recall having this. Is there another one? But I don't recall having one where we actually had a choice. We have to decide which route we want to take because we've got conflicting directions now. We have two tasks. One says take coffee to Veracruz. The other one says, see right here, and the other one says take coffee to Acapulco, and he says explicitly don't take it to Veracruz. So we got a choice, and I've already got this set up, so I made my choice. My choice is I'm going with our Mexican candidate and sending that coffee to Veracruz. Could have just as easily stopped this line and gone over and gone the other route. And since we do have a choice here, that tells me, and I think some of you have played this and seen that, we have the option now of doing other things. So we can go back and replay this and go the other way, which of course we will, because this really is a good scenario. It's really fun to play. Now, we got an opportunity to put an industry in Veracruz. Anytime you can do that, and you've got the money, do it. And there's a bunch of reasons for it. One, you're going to make money off that industry. Two, you can put the right industry in there that helps all these cities grow, which makes all your train lines make more money. So what we did here is put in a tailor, because we've already got a cloth maker, a textile industry up in Mexico City, and those two are connected. So since they're connected, that cloth can be sold in Mexico City, but can also be shipped down to us for our tailor. Our tailor can then take that cloth and ship it out back to Mexico City and anywhere else that Veracruz is connected. So now we've got a profitable business. It's going to help all the cities that are connected to it to grow. And it was an automatic because we don't even have to ship anything in there. It's already it's going to be getting the textiles that it needs to grow and prosper. So look for those opportunities, grab them, and mainly to get the right industry in there, because sometimes those private owners, the computer owners, will put things like they put maybe a steel mill in there or something just totally ridiculous. They can't even get the material it needs, but you have the opportunity here to get what you want. Now, while we're building that up, we're going to go ahead and keep expanding. We've got another beer meat here. There's meat in Belize City, and there's beer, of course, in T-Town. And then in T-Town, of course, we already have our wheat running off to it, so it's a good producer of beer. So we're going to run another beer meat line. And part of the message here is don't stop. Keep expanding your business. Don't slow down because you're waiting on, I wonder what it's going to tell me to do next. If you've got the money and you've got an opportunity to build a good line, like in this case, a beer meat line, by all means, get it going. So we got some. This map is. I think this is an excellent map. It looks nice. It's got those cool looking pyramids on it, which are, they're nice. But the main thing is all the mountains. You got to deal with all these mountains and decide: do I go around them? Do I go through them? All that kind of stuff. And of course, a big decision there is how much money do I have and all that kind of stuff. But as a general rule, I go around mountains. It just makes so much sense for a bunch of reasons. One, it's way cheaper. And two, your trains don't get on a bunch of inclines where they slow down. They can keep running at pretty full speed, even if they're carrying freight. So I go around the mountains pretty much. And occasionally, though, you just got to bite the bullet and go through them and build a big tunnel or whatever. But you really got to watch your inclines and try not to make too many spots where that train is going to have to just chug and churn in order to get up and down the mountain. And again, I mentioned this in part one, but didn't have any grand strategy for research. I just sort of grabbed mainly anything that helped with mail or passenger profit. There seemed to be a lot of those in there. And you can see we're already in great shape on our delivering coffee to Veracruz, in spite of the fact that I failed to put a supply tower in a proper place so that my trains could run efficiently. It's a shame on me, but I'll fix that right now. And I don't know if you noticed, but I was very aggressive there. When I made that coffee line to Veracruz, I put I think 4 trains on it. That's overkill because it can only consume so fast, but I wanted to make sure I had a train ready to go to grab more and take it as fast as we could, because that's a task and we're timed on these things and we want to get them done. Plus I wanted to get them done in order to see what was next. What's our next set of orders or tasks going to be. So here we're finishing off that line from T-Town to Belize City. And we'll run our usual automated lines with stuff going back and forth. So now we can get that meat and beer flowing back and forth. We get passengers and mail flowing back and forth. Both cities will, it'll help both cities grow. T-Town's already growing nicely because it's got that meat beer line with Oaxaca already. So we're looking for more opportunities to grow, and we've got this area right up in here is all meat, and biggest reason is there's no wheat to be found. So Campeche here is another meat line, and we had a choice here. We've got beer in Veracruz, and I know that Veracruz is overproducing beer relative to what it can ship out. And what Mexico City needs and what it needs, and what Oaxaca might need, because it has a connection to Oaxaca as well. So we're going to take advantage of that and run a line here. And now, I believe this is the point. Yes, this is it. This is where I pay for not following the process that we've kind of been following and agreed is the way to go. See how those two stations are oriented the same way? It's much better when they're set up back to back. Way back when I first set up that lower station, I had the opportunity to expand the top station and use it, and then later build that second station up above it turned the other way so that we've got back-to-back stations. Had I done that, I could have avoided all this, but now I'm going to have to dig my way over to that other one. So here we go. Now we're going to find out what do we have to do, and it looks like we have to build 4 cities. And the good news is it's partially cities we've already been working on, so that's a good deal. We've already started working down there, but it wouldn't have mattered even if we had gone the opposite. If we'd gone up and built up beer meat lines up to the north, that's fine and dandy. They would have made money for us, and then we could come back here and start doing this. But now we're really going to focus. And I'm looking to see if I want to do a crossing line here. And thank goodness sanity prevailed, and I didn't wear out that functionality. I decided to go ahead and build a tunnel and go underneath all that stuff, because if we tried to cross there, first of all, there's not enough space. There's not enough space to cross and then turn back into the platform. And secondly, even if you could, similar to the comments I made about T-Town, you don't want to be crossing. You want to have the crossing line hold up the heavy traffic, coming into your town. So sanity prevailed here, and we built the tunnel, and now we've got a line going between Veracruz and Campeche, and we can run goods, beer meat line there, and mainly to get that beer from Veracruz out to Campeche and help it grow, because it's one of the 4 we've got to grow. The 4 we have to grow are Oaxaca, which is already in our network down there to the south of Veracruz. Then we've got to build out this Campeche, which is on down here to the, actually, I think I messed up on my jar. That's south. I think we're kind of looking, what are we looking? We're looking, well, I'm not sure exactly how Mexico curves at that point, but I think it actually curves back up. So it's a little confusing. Maybe I should just say over to the right is Campeche. I'm directionally challenged if you haven't figured that out. So we're going to build up Oaxaca to the bottom of our screen. We're going to build up Campeche to the right. There's another city, Mérida, which is that little one just past Campeche, and then the other one is Belize City, which we had already hooked up to T-Town as a beer meat line. So we're going to have beer meat going to Oaxaca and Campeche and Belize City, so that's all great. And then we're going to have to figure out how we're going to deal with Mérida. So here's another one. Here's another one where we've got a new industry opportunity, and we even get a bonus for it. So wouldn't that be nice if we can handle that? And we're trying to see what could we put in that we could sell, and it turns out that Veracruz is close to the point where they can take mezcal, which is what we make in distilleries down here in Mexico. And it's basically alcohol, of course. But we can make mezcal out of sugar, and there's sugar fairly close to Oaxaca, so we're going to put in a distillery so we can make mezcal, and then that way we'll be able later to ship it off to Veracruz and have a customer. So we'll make money on the distillery, and we're raising our company value. That's important. We're raising our company value. Immediately, the benefit of that is that as our company value goes up, it allows us to take bigger and bigger bonds. So we can open bigger and bigger bonds. So you want that. And this one, I'm only going to put a single line because it is so close that literally one train can just run back and forth and take care of it. So that's unusual for me, but I only put a single line because it's just so close. There was just no point in putting another one. In fact, you could argue don't even need the line because Overland would take care of that. But 2 things. One, I want to make sure that we get a steady flow, and we want that distillery to be profitable. And 2, why not make the money? Those short lines are beautiful because you get paid the same as you would on a long line. Now, here's something you don't get to do much in this particular scenario. Put in a museum and help T-Town grow, because it's really doing great. It's over 60,000. And it hadn't really been a focus of us. I mean, it's not one of our 4 cities we have to grow, but it's just because it's been participating in our beer meat line and it's in a pretty good location, it's doing great and growing nicely. You can see the brewery's getting plenty of wheat. Our furniture business is getting plenty of logs. Remember, we put that log business in there. So that's helping us in every way possible. Growing the city, meeting demand, making us money shipping the freight, everything. So we got to figure out what are we going to do with Merida. Now, Merida has a meat industry. Well, that meat industry, what are we going to do with it? You can't, we're running out of places we can ship this meat. So what we're going to do is actually buy the meat industry. We're making an investment right now because we know we want to set up a better growth situation for Merida. So we're going to buy that meat industry, and we're looking ahead now. We've bought it. You notice I didn't do anything with it, but we definitely bought it. And we could, if we chose, we could run cattle to it and try to at least, make it profitable that way. But the problem with it is it's going to hook up. You can see it's going to end up, we want to hook it up to Campeche, and we want to hook it up probably to Belize City. Those would be the 2 obvious places to hook it up. Those are the closest cities to it. Well, if you do that, those are already both creating meat. So you got these meat lines, which just aren't efficient. They're just not as good. They don't grow the cities as well. They don't make you as much money. You just kind of ship passengers back and forth. And we need to get past that and get so we're shipping goods in both directions where we make more money on our shipping and we help the cities grow. So that little buying that meat industry is an investment in the future. So now we're going to run cattle into Campeche, so that Campeche can get a steady flow of cattle. Its meat industry will be productive. That way the cattle and the meat requirements of Campeche are both met, and we can ship meat back to Veracruz once in a while and make some money on that. And we're going to be helping Campeche grow.
A robbery. Those
All right, now these robberies are, I think, a result of the path that we took. So we're gonna get robbed a lot. In fact, here our guy's saying, "Hey, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to set up an arsenal and do something about this." And remains to be seen exactly what he's going to do about it. But he's telling us he's tired of this. He's going to deal with it. But in the meantime, my comment I wanted to make was, we have to decide how we want to handle these robberies. And I know I don't pay off terrorists, so like the blackmail. I typically just say, okay, if you want to mess up my industry, mess it up for a bit, it'll recover. But the robberies are different, because the robberies are setting up bad vibes, if you will, for the folks in your who could potentially take your rail line. So you're going to lose either mail or passenger business or both. And so I wanted to deal with that. So a lot of these robberies, when I could afford it, I actually paid the money to keep the morale up, so to speak, so that the business would keep coming. And I don't, which is better, I really don't know. I haven't stopped to study it. If any of you have gotten into that kind of detail, we could be a nice discussion about should we really pay for the robberies or not. But when I could afford it, I paid for them. I paid the money to keep the business up. And when I couldn't afford them, I just hit the X and moved on. So now we want to run cattle down to Belize City because it's also a meat producer. And that's what we're doing right here. You'll also notice all these breakdown bag conditions. Have you seen me put in any maintenance yet? No, you have not. Now, why is that? Is it just because I'm a terrible player? Well, maybe, but that's not the reason. The reason is, we've discussed this in lots of videos. If you put in maintenance, one, it costs you a lot of money. And when you're trying to hit objectives, it's money that you could be spending on something else. Two, when these trains break down out in the track, and as long as it's not a super busy track, they don't really cost you much. They cost you a little bit of time with that train. Maybe they delay a train or two behind them, but they don't cost you that much. They get repaired out there in the field, and they go on about their business. And you don't have everybody coming into your stations and getting repaired. So when you have repair in your station, you actually are creating a bottleneck for your system. And that's especially true if you go in and then just suddenly start putting in all your maintenance. You end up realizing that, hey, I don't have, nothing's happening. My economy's going in the tank. Why is that? Because I'm out there repairing everything. So basically, as we've said before, we want to do repairs, but not right away, and you don't have to do them at all, frankly. Now, right now, I'm trying to figure out what industry do I want to replace that meat with, and I look around and decide wheat is too far away to put in a brewery, but I can put in a weaving industry. There is cotton nearby, and by having a weaving industry in Merida, that will create textiles, which will help Belize City eventually, and definitely Campeche now, to grow. And now I put that in first. That's a little scary when you put in your industry and then you put in your station. Remember, your stations don't conflict with existing industries in the city. They'll just move out of the way unless you own them. If you own them, then you got to deal with them because you can't move them. You'd have to tear them down and rebuild them. So when I built that industry, I made sure I put it out there kind of in the extreme as far away as I could get it. And then when I place the station, if you notice, I've got it opens up, so its tracks are going toward the industry. And the thought is I've left enough room that I can expand to 4 tracks if I need to. But at the same time, I've put it in such a way that I can now do the back-to-back and put one on the other side of it, down the screen, if you will. And that way we can have our 2 stations and 8 tracks if we end up needing that many to go into Merida. So now we've got an industry going. We're going to hook up Merida into our network, and first of all run it straight to Campeche, which is an obvious one. Even though it's meat, we can still make money on it. We can still ship passengers and what have you back and forth. And of course now we've got that textile up there, and once it gets going, it can ship textiles over to Campeche and help Campeche grow. And then if Campeche expands and gets a second business, whatever it has, of course, can help Merida grow. So we'll set up our little line, but it's a very short line. Won't take a lot of trains to get the job done there. And we're looking and finding cotton, and there is cotton right down there, right there. There we go. So if we run cotton straight into Merida, we can have a profitable textile business that we own, and we can help satisfy the demand for goods in Merida and help it start growing, even though it's not getting beer at this point. And of course, because we have it, we're going to use our new nifty functionality and do a little crossover. Can't resist. Now we're deciding how do we want to handle bypassing Campeche, and decide to build far enough out of the city so that we're allowed to build, but then hook it up to the existing line just to bring it in and put it into this a station here. We're going to put in a new station. See, we just had enough space to put that second station in there, back to back with the first one. Now we've got a line coming in that will run into that station and also use the supply tower that's already there, so we won't have to build one up on that end. So we will double track it back. And cut it off at the crossing intersection, because we don't want to mess with trying to build the two lines. It is, by the way, possible to build two lines going across there. You just have to space them a little bit. And given the fact that this is going to be a dedicated line, pretty much dedicated to cotton only, some more things are going to come through here, but it's not going to be that crowded, especially it's not going to be crowded on this crossing intersection. So it's no problem to have it come in at two different points like that and have that single line crossover. No big deal. And by the way, you guys who are console players, do you have the ability to build the interim signals yet? I know at one time when it first came out, I was doing it on the PC, and some of you were saying, hey, we can't do that. Somebody in the comments, let me know. Can you guys do that now? Because if you can't, that's a shame. It's really helpful, especially on these freight lines. But I've gotten so I even use it on my city-to-city lines a lot of the times. And I do kind of go back and forth whether I use it or not use it on the city-to-city. In this particular playthrough, I used it on virtually everything. And here's our Jan Jansen technique again, kind of bunching those up to make sure, and this is a very important one, to make sure that the returning trains, which are empty and are very short, just a locomotive, can get off the line and get out of that intersection so they don't block things up. So now we've got a cotton line running, taking cotton into Merida. And we've got 3 trains going, so that should be good for a while. And now we're going to build up our line between Merida and Campeche so they can start sharing things. And here I am having to turn that sound back up again. We're missing all the sound. I don't know why that is.
Quarters.
More robberies. And now we find out what our political candidate has decided to do about all this. And actually, I think he's the president now. I think when we made our choice, it helped him become the leader. Okay, so this is probably a good place to stop this one. We now know what our new tasks are. We've got to build out those 4 cities, and we've started doing that. We've built our beer meat lines where we could. We put in a new industry in Merida. We've got it connected, so we've got all the cities we need connected to our network. But now we've got to figure out how we're going to make them grow fairly quickly. And we've got a new set of tasks, and we haven't quite looked to see what those are, so let's stick with it here for a minute until we see that new set of tasks, and then we'll cut it off where we have all of our set of tasks, because we know there's new ones, but I haven't bothered to open them up yet because I'm kind of concentrating on getting this line. Now, and here's where I'm going to run beer up to Merida from T-Town. So I'm going to set up a line that goes up from T-Town and gets over there to a line that goes into Merida. And here, one more time, we're going to do our crossing because we're just in love with it. Honestly, it was fun to use it while you got it, but I think a bridge would have been a lot better there. That way you're not cutting things off, and actually it's more level to do a bridge in this case. We're going to merge into our existing line. And here's one where this functionality works, but doesn't always work. So here's one where I'm trying to do a merge. It gives me the little cone to grab, but when I grab the cone, because of I think it's the depth of that cut, that ground is we're down in we're cutting into the ground here, a lot of earthworks, and we've got a sharp curve. Now, one or the other or both of those things is keeping us from being able to use the default, the new functionality. So it's just not working for us right here. So we've done our merge over to the far line, but it's just not going to work. So I decided to go back to the old school, the way we would have done it in the past. So I've got a line going across that's going to allow you to use either side of that, and then we'll build a more like kind of the old way we used to do our merges. So now we've got a line coming down here that can go over to the right or come back from the right, coming down from the north, and we'll just do a little cutoff intersection, if you will, right there, and run a line here and do the same thing on this side with our little passing lane kind of an intersection that comes down and gets you set to cross over the tracks there right in front of that cattle ranch. So here's a case where I didn't have the patience to stick with it and see if I could make the new functionality work. So I just decided to go old school, so to speak, and get the job done so I could move on. Here we go. Now we can see our new tasks, and we have to deliver a bunch of weapons to those same 4 cities that we're growing. So that's going to be interesting. We have to grow the cities, but then we have to figure out a way to get weapons all the way down there. And in fact, right now, technically, we don't even know exactly how those weapons are coming. But we do know that in these scenarios, when they do them, it's typically special buildings that are creating the demand and creating the supply. So we'll look into that in the next episode and figure out where are these weapons coming from and why is it these cities need them or will take them. And we'll deal with that and continue to build our cities in part 3. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Railway Empire video. Thank you.